Hi there, my name is Jessica. My lesson plan has to do with continents and it is for students in the first grade. The main objective that the inquiry-based lesson sought to answer was that students will be able to name and identify the 7 basic continents in the world. The process of inquiry that I observed in the lesson was that it asked the question of, well, what I would have done to make it an inquiry-based lesson was to ask the question of, what do we know about continents in the world? And this is what I would ask my first graders. And for first graders, a lot of them might not know. But we can break the question down further and say, well, what do you know about the parts of the world on a map? And so I would show them the map and kind of just show them briefly, like, oh, this is this continent, this is that continent, just briefly. And then it has the first part of the teaching, the instruction, explicit instruction, it says, which is to display the world map, like I had mentioned. So the original lesson planner, what they did was they divided it into a few sections, and the first one was the explicit instruction where you display the world map. Point to the first continent, North America, tell the students the name of the continent, and use other positional words to describe its location, like this is North America, it is above South America, point to South America. The next section is guided practice. Tell the students that they will now be practicing matching continent words and names of the correct continent, and essentially we distribute the worksheet and then have students cut out the continent names and match them. Then ask students to find North America again and have them place the word North America on the continent that they have just identified, and also model the process. And then continue with the rest of the continents. And I think that it's really awesome that they went back to North America to kind of solidify that in their head. And then the next section is independent work time, where you do... the first section wasn't to match them yet. It was just to cut the continent names out and put them at the bottom of the page. And then the next section after that is to do the continent cutout sheet, and that's where each student cuts it out and places it where it goes on the map. Before students glue the continents and continent words on their page, walk around the room and make sure that everyone checks the work. I like that they included that because it's crucial that we check and make sure that that students are getting it. So then it goes on to some related books and media, and then the differentiation. There's enrichment and support for struggling students, and then an assessment, and a fun closing game. And then it gives us a song too, which is really fun. But so one resource that I found to be very helpful was what I just mentioned. It was the song that it generated, or that they created, and it's called Continent Chorus, and it's to the tune of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, it tells you, and it gives you the lyrics, and I thought this was a wonderful resource. And then also gave us some cool books too that I think are really cool that they put that out for us. And then lastly, another thing that I thought was really awesome was that it gave us a breakdown of like how long each section was created to be. Obviously, you can adjust according to your classroom and your adjustment on the lesson, and then some challenges that I encountered during the analysis of the inquiry. So I really think it's helpful when the lesson plans provide the standard, just because it creates one less step. But I do think that it's cool because I can kind of go back and use the plan to different standards. But that wasn't really a challenge. It was just something that I noticed was lacking. And then students are to work individually during this, although what I would do, depending on how my students are doing with social studies, is have them group up based off of students who are high and students who are low, based off of data that I already have. I think that would be a good idea, have students work in groups. And then because collaboration can influence the delivery of the lesson in a way that if students are just working individually, they can learn more from each other when they're working together in a lesson like this. But some new information that I gained through this inquiry-based approach was that asking that question, it helped me think about things that I needed to include in the lesson too. So asking the question of, what do you know about the world already? What do you know about the parts of the world? What do you know about continents? It gives me a guideline of where I need to go next. And I think that's so helpful for me and for the students to kind of get an understanding of what we're going to be learning about. But I do think that it serves as a really awesome guideline for me. And then also, some critical thinking and problem solving skills that I utilized during the inquiry analysis was, like I mentioned before, having to find that standard in just online, but also ensuring that there was that enrichment and differentiation for students who need support, because not all students are going to get it right away. And so sometimes I won't know what to do if it's a lesson that I haven't taught before. Having that support is very helpful. So just thinking of ways that I can adjust the lesson plan. I think that helps me to use critical thinking about just adjusting it and catering to what my students need. And then, so I would say that compared to traditional lessons I've experienced, this one is pretty cool because I am able to have my students have a say in the lesson, if that makes sense. Make it a collaborative lesson rather than one that I'm just explicitly teaching, which is an effective approach, but I think that when we include the student, and it makes them more hands-on and makes them more engaged in their learning, which is very important. That I would say that's my main difference from outcomes, that students are engaged. Level of engagement. And then reflecting on the connections between inquiry-based lesson and real-life applications on scenarios. The skills and knowledge I gained can be useful in obstructing new lessons and beyond the classroom, because I really do think it's important for students to collaborate with me. And one way I want to do this is at the beginning of the year, I'm I want our first couple of weeks to be dedicated to setting those expectations, but I want it to be in a way where students feel more comfortable. So, I thought of a fun way of, instead of calling them expectations, I'm going to call them classroom values. So, things like that, and then have the students, tell me what they think our values should be, and us collaborate together and work together to find those values that we can reflect on throughout the year. And in lessons too, I want my students to be a part of it. So even if that means like having students vote on the lesson we're going to do next, and then when we do the lesson, using this inquiry-based learning, like, hey, what do you know already about so-and-so? And then lastly, overall, I found the most valuable thing I found about this inquiry-based lesson is honestly that using inquiry-based lessons really does act like a guideline for the rest of your lesson. You could have your whole lesson planned out, and then once you start rolling with the questions, students are going to answer, and it could take a turn. And your lesson could change in a good way, but it could change. And so I think that it's so important to, yes, have your lesson plan planned out, but then use your students' engagement as a tool to guide your lesson, and make it successful. And this can impact my approach to lesson planning in the future by continuously having my students collaborate with me if they can. So thank you. Thank you for this lesson, and thank you for this assignment. It was great.